Okay. How you guys doing?
Well, I guess how excited are you to honor the Final Four team on Saturday that's coming in here?
Yeah, I think it's really special. I mean, I always love that, and I think it's so fun for those players that return. That's the best team in the history of the program and the university in men's basketball. And I've met a number of those guys, but I always think it's special. And I really like that our players get a chance to meet them. And not only did they go to the Final Four, the year before they went to Sweet 16. So that was like the best 2 years in the history of the program, and it's always fun to honor them and to have them come back and continue to see the program that they help establish and build.
Given what Vanderbilt did in their last game, and really, even though that lost to Kentucky and things, played well against them and what they've done, is it pretty safe to say that 1-8 does not display who they are as a team?
No, and like the Kentucky game you talk about, I mean, I watched that game obviously very closely in preparation for Kentucky. And it's a 2-point game with 5 minutes to go. I mean, they had a real shot to win at Rupp Arena. And they're playing very well right now. I mean, I'm really impressed. Obviously, Saban Lee is, he's been very good, there for his entire time, but he's really playing good. Career high the other night against LSU. I thought Evans really stepped up. And you could see at the end of the Florida game, which was the game prior to the LSU game, he made a couple big threes to get them back to where they had a chance down the stretch in the corners. And that kind of led him to the 7 for 12 from three that he shot against LSU, and a career high, 25 points in the first half, 31 overall. He played great. Scottie Pippen Jr. is really a heady, smart point guard, very good decision maker, very talented. Really impressed with him. And this kid, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name, it's Disu. Excellent player. He's a freshman out of Texas, long, shoots the ball from three, really looks good shooting the ball from three. He had 5 blocks against Kentucky, and that was, early in the second half. I don't even know how many he ended up with, but he's a good player. I mean, they've got some very good young players. I like this kid from Wright, who's played very well down the stretch of the LSU game. He had a couple big shots late in that game. Jordan Wright, I believe is his name, number 4. Very good player, strong, physical, 6'4" and a half, 230 pounds. They've got good pieces. The kid that they lost, Naismith, was a huge blow because that kid's, best shooter in our league and an NBA first-round pick. And they've been snake bit with injuries the last 2 years. They lose Garland a year ago, who's a top 5 pick, and this kid's a first round pick. They lose him, and been able to continue to fight on. And credit. I think they run a lot of good stuff offensively. They shoot a lot of threes. They really stretch the floor and space you out. And Lee is such a good driver and finisher at the rim. It's a hard team to match up with, and they're going to change defenses. I think you saw that if you anybody watch the LSU game. It's really a heck of a game. But they, are playing 2-3 zone. They pressed probably more in that game than they had shown in any of the previous conference games and had success with it. Back to their zone. They're also playing man-to-man. They ice all the ball screens. So they're a very well-coached team. He does a very good job. You can see a lot of the NBA influence, upon, how they play and a lot of things they do.
Kind of an atypical game for Reggie and Nick the other night against Kentucky. Was that something that Kentucky was doing, or just an off night, or maybe a little bit of both for those guys?
Yeah, I just thought that, they were really, really, loaded up on Reggie in terms of their team defense. He got the ball, and he had, multiple guys on him at all times. And he missed a couple bunnies that he's going to make, I think Kentucky really came to play. They were coming off a loss. Anytime you come off a loss, it hurts, even more. And, so I think that we got their very best game. We didn't play our very best game, and a lot of it did have to do with them and just how good they are and how good they are there at Rupp Arena. But yet we had a chance. I mean, we have a block out with 2:34 to go. We get the rebound on the missed free throw. We're the ball in a 2-possession game. As poorly as we thought we did compared to what we're capable of, we're still right there. So that was frustrating. But it is what it is, and give them credit. I mean, I thought Richards was fantastic. He had come off his worst game in the conference at Auburn, so he was really motivated, and especially to play well against us, who had the reputation of being big and physical. And it was a very physical game, and I thought it was well officiated. And I want well officiated because they let both teams play. We had 6 fouls at halftime; they had 3. So, it was very physical. There was, a lot of physicality.
Along those lines, Coach, I heard you mention after the game that Nick wasn't quite as aggressive as you wanted him to be, and as he had been driving and kicking it back out, and kind of like what Logan said, was that more about what Kentucky was doing, or was that just?
Yeah, I showed him some of the film yesterday where he had a chance, like early in the first half, where he came off a ball screen, and there was Richards right there. And it's like, Nick, just go dart by him. I mean, you're so much faster and quicker and explosive, and we got to get him to do that more. His pull-up jumper is really, one of his best shots. But when he gets to the rim, and I thought he did that more in the second half. When he does that, it helps us so much. Going into that game, the previous 5 games, he was 33 assists to 7 turnovers going in. I mean, his numbers been good. And also, in that game, we missed a couple wide open threes that we're going to make. We had 2 wide open threes in that first half where we fell down behind, where if we knock them down, we're right there. We actually have the lead. So that game's behind us. We've got to get ready now for Vanderbilt, which is tomorrow night. And, we had the off day on Wednesday, which was good. We got back here at the campus around close to 2 a.m. and because of the 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start. And, so I thought we had a solid practice yesterday and, lifted yesterday and did shooting yesterday. So it was a long day. And today will be, a lot shorter as we are a day before a game.
From a mental standpoint, I know I've heard you mention this before, but were you happy to see Vanderbilt beat LSU so it gets your guys' attention rather than them coming in here with that long?
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword, but I'm happy for Vanderbilt. I mean, I really am. I mean, they got good kids and they play really hard, and they played. It just shows you the depth of our league. I mean, here you got a team that was 0-8 and 8-0. And there's no question Vanderbilt deserved to win that game, and they were dominant all the way through. And then they showed the toughness when they fell down late in the game to fight through that and close it out, 99 points. I mean, that's a lot of points against, we all know LSU's really good.
Anything else for Coach before we let him go? Go to Tyler here, second row.
You mentioned having a chance against Kentucky, and then obviously you took the LSU team that we just said is very good to the wire. Those 2 games and everything else that you've done in conference in mind, do you feel like you've shown that you can compete with anybody in the conference, and down the line here you can get these wins that you're going to have to get better seeding in the conference tournament and then maybe an NCAA tournament too?
Yeah, man, all we're playing for is to get in the NCAA tournament, and that LSU game haunts us because that we should have won that game in our minds. Give them credit. But, at the end of the day, yeah, I think it's pretty clear we can beat anybody on a given night, but we can also lose to anybody on a given night. And, we've got to show up and play our very best, to have success. In this league, so you look at like Tennessee. We beat Tennessee. They go over and win at Alabama. I mean, this league is just so good. And that's what makes it so good is anybody can beat anybody. And, look like – Ole Miss played really well the other night against South Carolina, and they're rounding up now into being very difficult for everybody. I mean, they've had a heck of a schedule to deal with. So it's just such a great league in terms of the depth and balance. Usually in a league, you have 1 or 2 teams at the bottom. It's like, yeah, we're going to be able to beat them. And that's not the case in this league. And big part of it is there's so many teams that are well coached and talented. It's just a heck of a league. It's kind of like, I'm sure, in football it's the same way. It's just so hard to, when you have so many good coaches and talented players.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks.